I'm Hannah Pierce, and for my Dartfish presentation, I'm teaching a layup. So for our problem, many beginners in basketball don't have proper technique. And so a few issues that arise is the wrong footing and which disrupts the balance, torso leaning too far forward or backward, limited knee and hip flexion, reducing the jump height, control over the ball, and follow through for optimal control. So I use Dartfish in my process of correcting this problem, and it was very helpful because it analyzes body mechanics and specific movement patterns that I was able to analyze my athlete and see what areas we could work on. And here are some tools available through the program. So for correcting the problem, I wanted to focus on developing leg and core strength, which improves jump height and stability, allowing players to generate power and less effort. Repetitive layup drills reinforcing correct movement patterns, helping the body instinctively follow proper form during gameplay. Next was practicing layups from various angles and distances, which makes movements smoother and builds confidence in different scenarios, as well as drills focusing on on foot placement, such as the two-step approach and power layup, which enhances coordination and balance. I also had my athlete practicing correct timing in jumping and releasing the ball, which makes layups more fluid and effective. And lastly, reinforcing hand placement and follow through creates repetition for the player to do instinctively. So for our initial analysis, I'll play that now. And then we'll start off with the preliminary stage. So some observations I made was that the athlete's stance is not very stable. Her left arm is swinging a bit in the beginning. The athlete needs a little more control over herself as well as the ball. But some good qualities I saw was that the athlete has her eyes up and is looking at the hoop. I do want her to change that and focus on the right side of the box, but we'll work on that as we go. And another good quality is that her feet are pointed towards the hoop. So we'll play the preliminary stage now. And then our preparatory stage, some observations I made was that the athlete is using too much palm while dribbling. I really wanted her to focus on her fingertips. The ball is also too high and not controlled while she's dribbling. And there's some instability by leading with her chest, and her eyes were down and looking at the ball. But some good qualities I saw was that she's leading with the opposite foot to dribbling arm, and the ball is below her hand, ready to be dribbled. So we'll watch that stage now. Okay, our next stage is force production. Some areas that needed improvement is that the ball was coming up to the athlete's chest. The athlete's eyes were looking at the ball until she shoots, and the athlete shoots off of the wrong foot, which is something I really wanted her to work on. Some good qualities is that the athlete follows the correct path for the layup, and the athlete's stride is mainly consistent until stepping into the key. So we'll watch force production now. Okay, our next stage is critical instant. In this stage, I observed that the athlete's using both arms for shooting. That's something I really tried to correct. After seeing this, athlete doesn't jump, she stays on her right foot, and she's not aiming at the right corner of the box, which is something I addressed earlier. And then a good quality is that the athlete is inside the key. She followed mostly the right path for where she needed to go. So we'll watch Critical Instant now. Okay, and then our last stage is follow through. Some observations I noted was that the athlete's wrists fan out, and that sort of creates her to lose her force. She also swings her arm backwards, losing force, and the athlete crosses her legs, which makes it unstable stance. Something good I will note is that she hits the backboard, which is good to see. So we'll play that video now. So our intervention strategies was running on the treadmill to create a better stride, dribbling practices, and the specifics are listed there. We also practiced one step and shoot, which was a good way to get the momentum of shooting, and then repeated one-handed shots. This was something I wanted her to have repetition on to be able to get that form of just one arm. And then demonstrating the skill and having the athlete watch layup videos was very helpful. And demonstrating where a defender would be and why her body needs to be in a certain position to come possibly into contact with them. And then just remembering why her body is moving a certain way and practicing that mindfulness of each of these skills. So that led us into our final analysis, which I'll play now. Very impressed with our athlete. I think she did a lot better, especially in her shooting. I was very proud that she is able to get it to one arm. So with our preliminary stage in our second set of videos, an observation I made is her core is still leaning forward a bit and her feet are together. Something good is that her eyes are looking up and looking at the basket, and her hands are getting ready holding the ball. So we'll play that now. And then that leads to our preparatory stage. Some improvements I noted was that the ball could start lower for more control, and her left arm is still swinging a bit, but her eyes are up and focused on the basket, which I like to see, and her stance appears stronger. So I'll play that video now. Our next stage is force production. Some observations I made was that she could use a little more control over the ball. Her eyes stayed up the entire time, which was good. Her body posture appears stronger. Her stride is consistent, and her left leg is used for force while her right arm is for shooting, which was really great to see that change, and I'll play that video now. Next stage is critical instant. Some improvements that could be made is she's twisting a little too strong, which propels the body in the same direction, and her feet lands vertical. But her shooting arm stays straight, and her wrist is bent, which I'm glad she picked that up through our process. Her jump is small, but it's present, so I was happy with that. And she is only shooting with one arm. So we will watch that now. Okay, and then our last stage is follow through. Some observations I made was she's leaning towards the left, and in practice we aim for a more solid landing. And then although the athlete had good arm form, I wanted to have her keep her follow through longer and just keep her arm up there, but it did fall to the side. Some good things that were noted was that the athlete aimed for and hit the inside right corner of the box. She had good arm form, and her arm does not propel backwards after the shot, which loses force. So we'll watch that now. Okay, so our initial and final results are listed here. Obviously, I walked through a lot of them throughout the video, and we saw a lot of changes as far as form and stride and stance. So I was really proud of that progress that she is able to make. Some things that worked well. My athlete was really excited to learn, and so when we broke down specific skills in a move and repeated them, I think she is able to pick them up a lot better. And then also being able to, before our next practice, having my athlete repeat verbally. So if she could remember the skills and say them back, that was really influential in her being able to keep up the practice there. What didn't work was that although repetitive practicing went well, finding the right words to say to my athlete was difficult, and explaining verbally was hard. So she really benefited from a visual aid, which we learned later. And for the first few practices, my athlete did not like practicing if other people were on the court, and so that was something we had to work through as well. What I would do differently, I would have videos prepped for my athlete. She's very visual, so I'd want to have those and demonstrate the skill more often. And then I'd also practice individual skills from the start and work our way into the full layup. Yeah, that was what I would do differently. So in conclusion, using Dartfish to record and analyze my athlete's performance was both educational and highly beneficial. The software allowed me to pinpoint specific moments in her movements, showing her exactly where she excelled or needed improvement in, which she found really helpful. For me, the ability to save timestamps meant I could closely review her form and notice key details in her technique. Overall, this experience was not only valuable for developing my analytical skills, but it was also rewarding to teach a skill I know well to a friend who was learning proper shooting form for the first time. Through this process, I learned new ways to explain, teach, and evaluate skills effectively. So this is our intervention timeline. It's our final slide. Yeah, and then it just sort of runs down how I was able to train with her. I noticed after a while that practicing specific skills was really helpful, like just practicing dribbling or just shooting with one arm. And so we would do that repetitively for one day, and saw where that brought us at the end and practiced a full layup at the end of practice. So yeah, I think overall it was really good experience, and I'm glad that it went well.